So, what up, YouTube? This is, I don't know exactly what is Vladzilla, and I don't know exactly what he's going to be talking about with corrupt pardons, but I think it has to do with the Biden stuff and his son and whole family and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure maybe, and then it could actually have to do something with Trump too. I'm not sure anyways. Like, one is going to get into that. And so let me get out of the way. And let's just kick this off.
Pardons corrode trust and lead to the inevitable feeling that crime is legal if you know the right guy, if you can afford to pay off the right person. And sadly, we're seeing more and more of these pardons coming out where the people getting the pardon are donating to specific political organizations related to our White House. Specifically, there's an example of felony bribery and other charges where the daughter donates $2.5 million to MAGA Inc., and then later another $1 million to MAGA Inc., and then suddenly her dad and a bunch of other people who were being charged and led to be sentenced, they suddenly get off. They suddenly get a pardon. None of them have to face accountability. And the question is, what does that do to our country? What does that do to the soul of the people who are trying to live right, who are trying to do things the right way? What does it do to watch people who have money and access and power kiss the ring and then get away with fraud that makes you not believe in ultimate justice? I also want to point out that another guy who received a pardon, David Levy, he was convicted by a jury in 2019 for his role in a scheme to defraud bondholders.
Wait a second. I'm confused. If MAGA Inc. is receiving funds from these people and they're people that committed fraud, then aren't they giving them money that was from fraud? And so therefore, aren't they then an accessory to the fraud?
While he was the co-chief investment officer of a New York hedge fund. Now, when he was convicted, the person said in the verdict, a warning for all the fraudsters out there: no matter how slick you think you are, liars, frauds, and cheats never win. That really is what we all tell ourselves at night, right? We say, hey, it's not worth trying to cheat to get ahead because ultimately you will be caught. Ultimately, you will be brought to justice. Except when you just get a pardon instead. Like, except when the powers that be reach down and go, actually,
you're good.
We're going to go ahead and take that back. And I think a good example of this, just like in my own life, I watched myself experience the disappointment here, was in a non-pardon way. There's this guy, Sheldon Johnson, who appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience. He was a guy who was a violent offender, and later he gets, let out of jail. It's kind of like a story of rehabilitation, mercy. That's how it was pitched. Except then the guy later murdered someone like a month later. I mean, just like immediately went back, and it was so sad to watch people in the comment section go from being like, yeah, like we really need to give people second chances, to being
a murderer or a violent criminal got on Joe Rogan and then murdered someone, and that's crazy, bro.
Hardened and be like, that guy should have never been let out.
The last case that we talked about, we had a very unfortunate incident happen after the podcast, about a month later.
Yeah.
The gentleman beheaded somebody.
And that was its own type of corrosive experience, because obviously that's a sad thing to see somebody get basically a second lease on life and just throw it away. But then it also hardens something inside of you where the next guy who asks for a second lease on life, you're less likely to be like, yeah, I think that person should, because you're more hesitant to allow the opportunity of re-victimization. And I'm kind of experiencing that right now with the current era, because we're seeing some of these people who not only they're getting special favors, obviously, there's sort of this pay to play going on. Some of these people are then later re-victimizing people. I mean, this is the saddest part of it. Like, I recently learned of this guy, Eli Weinstein, who in the past term of Donald Trump was commuted, which means that his restitution wasn't forgiven, but his prison sentence was just over. He had been sentenced to over 20 years in jail for this horrendous fraud scheme, where he pled guilty to a $200 million Ponzi scheme involving phony real estate. So ultimately, he was ordered to over 20 years in jail and $215 million in restitution. So he gets let out, right? We give this guy mercy. But after that, pretty much immediately after that, he starts planning a new scheme. I mean, it's like the same thing with like Sheldon Johnson. he starts planning another substantial scheme to defraud investors and does another Ponzi scheme, re-victimizing a whole new group of people, which means the pardon was a huge mistake. I mean, we just caused a way more damage by letting this guy out.
Bro.
And now he got indicted again, like by the Justice Department again. This is the second time. And this time the Ponzi scheme involved scarce medical supplies, baby formula, and first aid kits supposedly destined for wartime Ukraine. Weinstein didn't try to make his victims whole. He made more victims as alleged in this indictment. It's like, that is dark. That is a very sad thing to read. Except what's sadder is that guy is now going for a second pardon. He is pitching himself for a second pardon to get out of it again. And what is he going to do if he gets out? I mean, I'm not a mind reader or anything, but I would guess he's going to do it all over again. I'd be like, obviously, right? So this is a Bloomberg original, which talks about Eli Weinstein and his schemes, and the reporter says this.
One person that I've spoken to for my reporting says that Weinstein has been reaching out to people, asking if they'd even consider working on his bid for a pardon. This would be quite extraordinary.
Weinstein was found guilty in 2025. Our reporting suggests that he is also trying to build a team to fight for a second commutation.
Now, I know it seems hard to believe that someone could be so arrogant, narcissistic, and like delusional enough to think they could get a second pardon after doing basically the same thing all over again. But if you thought that like I did, you'd be very mistaken, because we just did that. We just set a different fraudster free from prison for a second time. This coming after we issued a pardon for Adriana Camberos, who was initially freed with a commutation, but then she and her brother were convicted in 2024 in an unrelated fraud. And then this week, he pardoned both siblings, meaning that it is the second time she got out of jail using the president's pardon power. Like, why are we doing this? And what signal are we sending to the public? It really is the feeling that crime is legal for the right person. Even if you're unlucky enough to get indicted, you can get pardoned a second time for doing the same thing after learning nothing. And then if she does the same thing again, we're just gonna re-victimize more people. I cannot tell you how frustrating this is as somebody who cares about scams.
Right, yeah, totally. He's like all over, bro. He totally deep dive, investigate your asshole incredibly well to figure out if you're scamming people or not. Very good due diligence on scamming. So I get why he has a personal, like, I don't get why this is happening.
Who cares about fraud? It's so uncommon for it even to go through the long judicial process. You are seeing the 1% that actually get in trouble for this stuff, and we're throwing out the people who actually do face justice. I mean, it is so disheartening to see. And part of the reason I'm even covering...
I don't hate to break it to you, Vladzilla. You were born into a very manipulated, false mental reality.
It is because I so much didn't want to cover it. I've gotten sick of covering all the unjust pardons, the fraudster self-dealing pardons. But that itself, I realized, is like the acid doing its job on my soul, where I get sick of it. I get used to the idea that crime is legal, so then I don't cover it. And then I just accept that that's the status quo. And that should not be the status quo. I know, I know it kind of is becoming that way, but it is gross to see still. And I still need to remind myself that this is not normal. This should not be the case. And we should not be giving pardons to fraudsters who have conflicts of interest in the White House, or who are going to go on and do the exact same thing. Well, yeah. So I'm really just making this video.
I mean, why are criminals getting pardons if they're actually criminals? The pardons should be for people that were wrongly committed of a crime and need help out, not for people that do crime.
To try to remind myself and others that this is not normal. It's bizarre. It's happening, but we should not accept it as the status quo or as something that's acceptable. And yeah, that's basically it.
Right. See, so that's crazy.
Some of these people...
That's crazy, bro. Like, Yeah, I don't know how people do it, bro. Like, I don't know how you guys survive. Like, I am on the very, like, edge. Like, I am in the system just enough so I'm not homeless and I can work on all the little plans and things that I'm doing behind the scenes, not in front of this camera, right? So that's it. That's it. Dip my toe. And I'm going to get just enough to where I never have to worry about my bills anymore so I can come on here and present information more freely.